Hi, and welcome to the X22 Report Spotlight. Today we have a returning guest, Bob Kudla. Bob is the creator and owner of TradeGeniusAcademy.com, and I am very happy and honored to have Bob back on the X22 Report Spotlight. Bob, welcome back to the Spotlight.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. And let's just start off with the economy, because here we are at the end of the year. Can't believe it flew by this quickly. And I remember when Trump was first coming in, there was no tariff system. Inflation was very high. Fuel prices were very high. And now we see that everything has changed. Trump has his tariff system. It's bringing in billions and billions of dollars. Inflation, I don't want to say it's come down, but he stopped it from going up. And he's lowered fuel prices. And the news, the economists, the Fed, they're all wrong about all of it. And where do you think this is going to go with inflation, with fuel prices, as we move into 2026?
Yeah, so let me address the inflation thing first. So the Biden administration, pumped so much money supply into the economy in 21, 22, 23 that's now being dissipating. So that's one of the reasons why you start to see inflation start to moderate. And then the other thing too is simple supply and demand. Rents are going to keep falling, Dave, because we keep deporting the people that got free rent. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see rent prices across the country are going to continue to, moderate. Obviously, if you're in a great area, you're going to keep rent, but you're going to see rent prices continue to fall. Same with healthcare, with the Trump, going ahead and going after the drug prices, and now he's going after the health insurers. You're going to see that push down too. Food prices are just a matter of we've had some droughts, and mostly the prices have been in. Really, the big prices have been beef, and that's starting to moderate. I just went to the grocery store yesterday, and one thing I always check is, and I don't know if this is a Wegovy issue or not, but in the height of the inflation, you get a pound of burrito pasta for it went up. It was like $2.40. Today they said if you bought 3 of them, they gave it to you for 88 cents. I'm seeing that kind of across the board here with prices of food items. We're coming back down to pre-COVID levels. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously energy, it's never supply demand thing. Trump just opened the supply gates up and basically executive ordered away all the regulatory burdens that have caused prices to rise. So now regarding going forward, I think food prices are going to remain stable. Rent prices are going to go down. Health insurance can't help but go up until we start seeing the population of the old people start to go down, but it's going to be moderated quite a bit. And energy prices, every time oil hits around $55 a barrel, it bounces from there. And I don't think we'll see lower energy prices across the country until the Russian-Ukrainian conflict is resolved enough that Russia can release oil onto the open markets. And then I think you could see, and which I don't really want, I'm heavy in energy right now, but you could see oil down potentially in the 45, 55 bracket versus this 55, 65 bracket. And that's good news, bad news for us, because in America, we make money at 55 to 65, 45 to 55 wells get shut off. So I think we're probably as good as we get on energy, but considering it's pretty good. And even in California, which won't last long, up in the Santa Barbara area, we actually had gasoline under $4 a gallon. We never see that. Yeah. And I know around the country, people are seeing under $2 a gallon. So I think inflation, and when you made the thing is they were wrong. They're never wrong. I have this conversation with my wife all the time. These people aren't wrong. They weren't informing us. They were propagandizing us.
True.
Is that they didn't care if they're wrong. They want you to think Trump's policies are going to fail. Then they act all surprised because they know they're not stupid. They're just notorious. And so they knew this was going to happen. And with even with the reshoring, with the tariffs, people always said, I have this argument with the trade genius customers is that tariffs aren't good. They're going to cause inflation. I'm like, do you own a business? Because if if you can't just simply pass on your cost to a customer, okay? We're not a cost plus, economy. People have alternative substitutions, or they just refuse to buy it, and that's what happened here. People try to look at, and in classic examples, McDonald's.
Hmm.
So McDonald's and some of these other fast food chains push prices up, and they try to make them stick. And what happened was is the prices remained high, but sales fell through the floor. I mean, just classic economics 101. And what did McDonald's do? They flipped. They brought the value meal back. Okay. And their prices are back down to pre-COVID levels. You're getting that 2 for $5 deal again. You're getting coffee at $1. And my point is that you can say I can say my house is worth $10 million, Dave,
Hmm.
right? Nobody has to buy it.
Right.
and
Right.
and that's what's happening here. And I think we're going to see inflation is really going to step out of the mainstream conversation next year. I think we'll get a couple actually negative prints of CPI before it goes back to positive again.
And also, when you mentioned the Ukraine-Russia war, I mean, Trump just had a meeting with Zelensky. And actually, if there is peace, all those sanctions and everything against Russia completely disappears. And I think Trump wants to do business with Russia. So I think we're going to see a lot of things happening between our country and Russia. So that's going to change everything.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm like kind of annoyed. I mean, look, Putin's no saint, but we do
Right.
business with communist Chinese.
Hmm.
So, we don't need China, we need Russia. And so I don't know why the Europeans have a hairball up their rear end on Russia, but they we need Russia. We need their strategic metals, and we're a great export market for them because we can provide the high tech equipment in their energy infrastructure and other areas that they desperately need. And so I think that if Putin is trying to work his way out of this, it'll be great for everybody. And I mean, you look at companies like ExxonMobil and McDonald's; they all had to leave Russia. They'll be invited back in a minute.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it needs to happen. It's a stupid war,
Hmm.
and it should have never happened.
I agree. Well, this is what happens when you cheat in the election. You get a war. So
Yep.
let's talk about like Bitcoin, gold, and silver. Bitcoin right now is declining. I mean, we saw a lot of in the very beginning. I think we talked about this already, where we saw a lot of people dumping their ETFs and things like that. And Bitcoin has been struggling to get over 100,000 again. What do you see happening right now?
Yeah. So it could actually fall further. Worst case scenario. I mean, don't trade on this news, but I just want to give people kind of the potential. Um, it could come down and test the breakout from earlier in the year around what was that 58 or 62,000 area before it starts to climb higher. I think really what's happening here is because silver and gold broke out, people just shifted their speculation to those entities and walked away from Bitcoin. And so I think that's what we're seeing. And I think we'll probably, if silver and gold kind of moderate here, then I think you'll see a bid in Bitcoin again.
Yeah, I mean,
And who knows where the price is going to be? But I think people have to realize now it's a more mature asset class now, and it's probably going to float more like gold and silver until the end state. Then people are just going to grab anything that's not a fiat currency to hold on to their wealth.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm hoping that it goes down to like 60, 58, because I mean, that opens up a nice buying opportunity. And I know people see it as a negative. I see it as a positive because I don't like purchasing anything that's, 100, 110, 120. I like when it comes down. And that's when people kind of sell off. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, if you have a longer term, if your horizon's 5 years are out, you want the price to go down. Look, you're a hodler. I'm a trader. So
Right.
to me, I don't care what the price does. Be honest with you, I buy it as it goes up. I sell it when I think it's going to go down. So, but here's one thing really interesting. So there's a stock out there called IBIT, which is kind of like It's like a mirror of Bitcoin. I trade that all the time because I don't want to have a separate Bitcoin account. So I'm in IBIT. You can sell calls against it, so like you can monetize it. But one of the things that they've noticed here is that IBIT, which is a reflection of Bitcoin, is Bitcoin goes up, okay, during the Asia market hours and basically even into Europe, and then it's up 33% for the year. During the New York market, it's down. So it's a classic case of, you know how they used to do that with gold and silver? They're doing it with Bitcoin now. So they're using the futures markets and other kind of naked selling to push it down. So there's an ETF coming out. I'm not exactly sure when. Has to get approved by the SEC. That will do that trade. It will basically sell IBIT at the close. I mean, buy IBIT at the close and sell it at the open. So once it comes out, I'll let you your listeners know,
Okay.
and I'll probably dabble in that a little bit because that's really interesting to me. You know that you're getting to see some pretty creative ETFs out there, so that the big boys don't get all the advantages. You know, basically they're preying on retail. When this ETF comes out, you're going to be able to have institutional capacity as a retail trader, and I think that'd be great. It'll be a great hedge if you're long Bitcoin. It'd be great to own that too.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And we're also seeing, I mean, we'll start with gold, then we'll move into silver. Gold, it shot up quite a bit before the holidays. I think it's down now a little bit, but it's still holding steady around 4,300 or so. And where do you think gold is going to go after all this? I mean, it's just unbelievable.
You know, it's really look. They've been suppressed for so long that I'm afraid to hazard a guess. But you know, if you want to pay off the entire national debt, gold needs to be like $88,000. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean that's not realistic, but I just want to give you a perspective. So you know, can gold move up into five figures? I think absolutely it can. Look, right now from 4,000 to 10,000 is only a double right now. Okay, so you're going to start getting the law of large numbers in there.
Mm.
You know that it looks a lot, but the percentage isn't that much. And so, you know, we'll start seeing it just like with Bitcoin. You know, why is gold up to $3,000? Well, it's only up 2 or 3% or 8% or 10%. You know, that you're going to start seeing those kind of numbers. So, and the same with silver. The silver gold ratio is out of whack. Silver is very unique right now because you have Samsung out there bypassing the exchanges and they're buying silver directly from the miners. And that's just a kiss of death for the CME and even the Shanghai Gold Silver Exchange, because when the manufacturers that use the product go directly to the miners, they can provide the liquidity that the CMA, the futures markets used to provide, without the naked selling games that they play. And so I'm anxious to see how that plays out. As you know, this morning, I don't know exactly when you'll publish this, but on the 29th, they raised the margin on silvers on the futures market, I think to like 25,000 or something, like some crazy number that they're trying to tamp down speculation. It'll have a short-term positive effect that way. It'll drive prices down, gold and silver, the metals and miners. I say give it a week or two, and then you can start picking up miners. I sold none of my miners, and so I think this is going to be an opportunity for a big move. And I think once they get rid of the speculation in these exchanges, as you know, I know you want to ask me that in January China is going to restrict exports of silver. Is that I think you'll start seeing probably the middle of January after that OPEX in those future contracts. I think you'll start seeing gold and silver rise again because demand is far outstripping supply at this point.
Why do you think China is restricting silver? What's your guess on that?
They want the batteries and they need the collateral. China's dead. It's a closed society, but they're imploding inside. They lost 60 million jobs, Dave.
Wow.
60 million manufacturing jobs. I mean, that's mind-boggling to me. And so you're starting to see some real stress in the system, and they're bankrupt and they're trying to hold collateral. They're the largest holders of copper too.
Right.
They use that as collateral between each other. Look, they don't trust each other. So, basically, um, they use silver, gold, copper in these warehouses to pledge collateral for loans and for trade basis. So that's why they're doing it. Plus, that silver now is being incorporated into the EV market. With Samsung batteries,
Right.
2 kilograms per battery. They said if Samsung hits their target, 70% of the world's silver supply would simply go to Samsung. So you can just imagine how prices are going to fix that demand, right? They're just going to make it basically those cars unaffordable with silver at some point because silver is going to skyrocket.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now it seems like we're going through a very volatile time with Bitcoin, gold, silver, and you've been up on all of this with your trading system. For this month, do you have any specials going on?
Yeah, we do. As we always do for your listeners, we simplified our pricing so you can get uh, a service where you just hit the chat room and get the trade signals and get our algorithm, where you can upgrade what a lot of people do into the voice room, like you and I are talking right now, where you can get me and Phil and talk any question you have regarding stocks or stock market or economic philosophy, whatever floats your boat, and we price those things very affordably, and I think people really like it. And Dave, just to toot our own horn, we've been doing really well. So our algorithms can see some of this stuff, and in some cases before the news breaks. So it's not that we have a crystal ball; it's just that big money can't escape without being seen,
Right.
and the algorithms can see that price action. So I encourage people to come trade with us. And next year, we're working on something really cool going into next year in terms of trying to make the trade signals even simpler for people. They're going to try to make them idiot proof, or I like to say Bob proof, and to make it really easy for people to see on the screens where the buys and sells are, so that you can just set your filters and set your alerts, and you can trade anything you want to trade. And even though I put out a trade or two every day just to prove the system, you'll have full control. You'll be the captain of your ship. And we're pretty much ready to roll that out too. So people that join us early in the year are going to get that without an extra charge. So if you've been on the fence with us, jump in so you don't have to pay for that separately.
Great. I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video to make it easier for people to go right over. And, what we've been hearing from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's been talking about tax refunds coming in 2026 and even dividends where they're going to, take the money from the tariffs and give it to the people. So how do you think this is going to change everything? Because again, when people are getting money back into their pockets or, they're getting these checks, do you think this is going to change the economy?
Well, I think it's just going to keep the liquidity engine going. It's a fire. It already started, right? Trump gave the active duty military a bonus. I think he
Right.
made it non-tax too, if
I think so. Yes.
recall. So you're just going to see one thing after the other. Trump's pure populist right now. He's going to rip the money out of the health insurance. He's going to give it to the people, right? He's ripping it out of China and he's handing it to the people. And so he's going to do that all year long to ensure that his supporters will then think kindly of them going into the next election cycle. But he truly believes it. So it's not just a slogan for him. So you're going to see. In fact, he's meeting with his cabinet right now. They're talking about doing something incredible for housing. So he has his pulse. As somebody says, Trump knows how to read the room, and I think he knows that I got inflation under control. I got the border under control. I'm going to now try to get housing under control so that young people don't feel dispirited and listen to the siren song, of the Lorelei on the Rhine here with the socialists, right? He's trying to just keep them at bay. And so the only thing that he hasn't done that I think people want him to do is that he needs to start perp walking some people. And so other than that, I think that's what his plan is economically. And look, I think it's a good plan. He has to, just like we had 4.3% GDP growth,
Right.
he needs to maintain that so they can actually grow their way out of this. And here's an interesting thing for people to understand is that I think after 10 or 12 years, the baby boom bulge in terms of use of the federal outlays, Medicare and Social Security and disability are the big three, is that actually starts to roll over, I think in 2035, because there'll be less people retiring and more people dying. So, and then the money's still pumping in. So just bear that in mind. So there's things they can do in terms of longer term yields and, to be able to make sure they pay for all these things. And basically, if they do it right, maybe another generation or two to get the books evened out again. But it's the baby boom bulge that caused most of our problems. And then, then all this corruption. I think we're going to find out we have probably 10 or 15, 20% of our federal outlays have been stolen from us. And I think he's going to be tooting that horn too. And he's going to say, hey, the money I save here, I'm going to give to the people. He's going to force Congress to act because he's going to put things that, hey, look, I just saved you $13 billion from these Somali crooks. I want to give that to the people. You know what I mean? And so he's going to force people to vote against stopping corruption because they're going to ignore him, until he forces the issue, just like he did with the great, big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, I agree. And he keeps mentioning that he's hoping the tariff system will allow us to remove the income tax. I think this is actually possible. I mean, a lot of people, when they ask me, they're like, no, is he serious about this? Is he really going to do this?
I think he could do it. You have to realize, he's going to replace it with something else, though. You can't run a $4 trillion budget just on tariffs. So he may have to tweak some things and have some fees and stuff like that. But the dirty little secret on this is that anything he does is going to be actually more regressive, because right now all income taxes are basically being paid from people making $500,000 or higher. So he needs to broaden out the tax base a little bit, but he needs to do pennies from heaven, so people don't see it like an income tax. You get the big chunk of money coming out, but he's going to do it because that way he can get rid of the IRS, and then he can also, look. You and I talked about this before. His end goal is to blow the Fed up.
Yeah. I
so if he could get rid of these two monsters, he basically brings control back to the American people.
Yeah. And again, we don't know how deep this fraud is. I mean, we see it just in Minnesota. I know you live in California. I think California is even worse, actually, than Minnesota.
$76 billion and counting. Ro Khanna actually had to say, I agree with you. So $76 billion and counting. I mean, look, Newsom should be in jail, running for president. I mean, this is the thing. I think it's the only flaw, I think, in our Constitution is that whoever controls the executive reins can basically ignore their own duplicity and crimes. And so, but yeah, this is I think it's going to disgust the American people, where when they just take this thing nationwide. It's amazing to me how blatant. And look, I knew this was happening. I was in the solar business for 15 years, and I ran it alongside Trade Genius. So traded in the morning, and then wrote solar contracts in the afternoon, and they had threw a lot of federal money at this thing, and I seen people just left and right trying to game the system. And people trying to get me to bump up the price, but get a kickback so they get higher tax payments. I just looked at them like, I'm not going to jail for you, buddy. And but yeah, so that was a big problem. It got so bad that they had to put in they had to bring the utility companies in to create average prices. But anytime the federal government's handing out money, look at PPP, right? Look at EDLI. All that stuff is just ripe for abuse, and and now we're finding out with all these giveaways that they basically in California they did a bump up, Dave. So they would they overcharged the federal government, but then the Newsom administration then only gave portion of that bump up back to the transportation companies that did the ambulance services. They pocketed the rest.
Yeah.
So it's just one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. It's just amazing to me, mind-boggling that our country, we can't lecture anybody on corruption anymore. We are the worst. We just put a nice bow on it, you know.
And also, I mean, again, I think this is just tip of the iceberg that we're seeing right now. I think it's a lot worse than anyone could ever imagine. And I don't think it's just happening in this country. I mean, can you imagine if we actually looked into the Fed and what they have actually been doing? I think everyone would be shocked because there's no way that...
That's why they never want to audit the Fed. I mean, you know how much money we've given to foreign banks and, you know, basically caused inflation here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, I don't think you're going to run out of material anytime soon.
No, I don't think any of us are. I think it's just will just continue to happen because it's just unbelievable what we're seeing right now. But I think eventually it'll get better.
God is exposing it all.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bob, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Again, if people want to join up to your trading system, where should they go?
TradeLikeAgenius.com. You know, ask for the specials. Take advantage from now. And I think you'll like trading with us. All like-minded people, great people. It's not a zero-sum game. And we have a track record to show that we can help you make money in the long run.
Great.
So with that, Dave, I don't want to talk to you again until next year.
Yeah. Not until next year. And Happy New Year, Bob.
Thank you. You too, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.